there, I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome once again to our reading Kojeve's notes on notion of authority. Today we're doing part B, deductions. We had, remember, A was dealt with the question of analysis, and now he's going to do the deductions from the analysis. The analysis has three parts: political implications, ethical implications, and phenomenological applications, psychological applications. Today we're going to be doing up to the big. We started out, but then we're going to be doing 10 pages today, pages 56 to 62, a little less than 6 pages. But it's because part one of political applications is huge. So we'll get into political applications in part one, and that will kind of spell out most of what he does here. So let's go look at this. Okay, since our analysis are inadequate, our deductions can only be incomplete and should be read with caution. Furthermore, we shall not try to draw all consequences that are already possible, or even the most important ones among them. We shall content ourselves with investigating somewhat randomly a few selected consequences. Again, remember, this is the consequences of the four types and the four different varieties of types. Remember, he's going to say that there's the first four, this goes back all the way to, all the way back to his analysis of 1A, what's it? Part, A, the first category, when he talks about, through his point about A13. Yeah, it's on starting on pages 29 and 30, where he gave us the argument of four pure types, six combinations of two pure types, and so on, two varieties, and that is 12 types overall, two types, and then four combinations of three types with six variations, that is 24 types, and one combination of four types with 24 variations. So this kind of, he goes, thus we add up a total of 64 types of authority, variations of types of authority. Remember, based on the fourfold criteria of a father, master, leader, judge, right? That goes there. So now we're backing here saying we're going to give the deductions of this and give some deductions from it. Second paragraph. We shall start with the political consequences, the state itself, and we shall then move to ethical consequences, the individual citizen and the state and their mutual relation, to conclude with the psychological consequences, the individual citizen in himself. Three stages of development of the deductions thus corresponding in the opposite direction to the three stages of the analysis. Note, all our deductions are carried out in the political sphere, and so that an authoritarian political ethics and psychology that we are talking about. So it is an authoritarian political ethics and psychology we're talking about. It would be interesting to make similar deductions in any other sphere where authority appears, such as religious or other spheres, right? So therefore, this is the political sphere. This is this idea. And this is the political sphere of authority. The political applications. Of all the political consequences, in the narrow sense of the word, that can be drawn from our analysis of power, we shall single out only those that pertain to the question of one, division of powers, one, and the transmission of power, two, making do, moreover, with a very brief presentation. So therefore, very brief. We're going to be looking at the division of power, one, the first point, and the transmission of power. Political power is the power of the state, which the latter exercises through the agency of the person or persons who represent or embody it. Without a state, in the broadest sense of the term, there is no political power in the literal sense of the term. Yeah, even in so-called democratic states where power seems to belong to the mass, it is really the state that possesses and exercises the power. In It is simply that in this case, the state is embodied in and represented by the citizens as a whole. But even here, individuals possess political power only insofar as they are citizens. That is to say, insofar as they collectively represent or embody the state, and not qua private persons. For instance, children have no political power. Now, with regard to the specific point, the power of the citizen of a democratic state does not differ in essence from that of an oligarchy, or even that of an absolute monarch, or tyrant, or dictator, and so on. See the brief article on the state. Now, this is a big headache because this could be a reference to a manuscript and identified just like the present volume, which is mentioned in this same way in the outline of philosophy of right, then found years later in Lulu. This is the whole problem. That's the question of whether this is just all of this is kind of like a prequel to what Kojeve does in his outline of phenomenology of right. Right. Okay. So as a matter, but let's think about this. The idea here is that there's no private power in this sense, political power. No, in other words, political power always is about the state, and therefore, when individuals exercising political power, they're exercising it not by themselves, but rather as their role as citizen. Okay, as their citizen, one who the idea it's not as person but as citizen that they're exercising power, political power in a sense. There might be other forms of power they might possess, social power, power of, within the family, things like this. Ability to but political power is only qua citizen. Otherwise, there's no power in that sense, and that's why children has no power in that sense. He says there's no political power. Children have no political power in that fundamental sense. He argues, but that unless we extend the concept of citizenship and the rights of citizenship to them. Okay, that's the other thing. And then therefore this is therefore remember this. And then why do we talk about the oligarchy? Why does that make a difference? Is because it's a question of the size of who is the de facto exercising citizen. Okay, that the oligarchy, the actual citizens are few, the few stakeholders of power. In a absolute monarch, the monarch is, or a dictator, or a tyrant or a dictator, and so these forms of those are the ones who are exercising the control of ruling citizen. And remember, what does citizen mean? Is the one who decides, one who determines what is to be done, one who chooses, one who has authority in a sense. We could argue, right? That who has the authority to act. As a matter of fact, political power can be founded on force. Right? This is interesting. Political power can be founded on force. But in principle, it should be able to do without it. Only in this case would the existence of the state not be considered accidental, and the state therefore enabled to last indefinitely. So this idea of that this political power can be founded on force, but it should not be solely founded on force. He's saying, I think he's saying here, because rather, and that because if it's only so based on force, it would be considered maybe accidental and not essential in that sense. Its existence is not something accidental, and the state is therefore enabled to act indefinitely if it's something that's not just accidental, but rather something that is choice worthy and choosable. A theory, as opposed to practice of the state, thus avoids the notion of force because it understands the concept of the idea that the force is a. Now that's interesting. It avoids the notion of force. But how can you? Because okay, but let's take that. A theory, as opposed to practice of the state, thus avoids the notion of force because it's relied on the It's not an accident, but the nature of the thing, right? But in fact, a power that is not founded on force can only be founded on authority. So therefore, this is the idea that power does not found. Remember, again, he goes back to the thing that authority cannot be forced. Which, okay. Um, Note: a power founded on authority can, of course, use force, but if authority engenders force, the latter can never, by definition, engender a political authority. Um, a theory of political power is therefore nothing other than a theory of authority that manifests itself in the political sphere. More precisely, a theoretical application of a theory of the theory of authority to politics. That is to say, to the state. So in other words, the theory of political power is nothing more than a theory of authority that manifests itself in the political sphere, right? And therefore, more precisely, a theoretical application of the theory of authority to politics or to the state. Also, in order to avoid ambiguity, we shall replace the phrase political power with that of political authority. So that thing is going to replace this thing of political power with political authority. By definition, every political authority belongs to belongs en bloc to the state as such. But the state is a conceptual entity that needs a material concrete support in order to exist in the spatial temporal world. In other words, the physical world we live in, right? This is how problems of the division and transmission of authority emerge. Okay, so therefore, in other words, this is the problem of the state as concept and its manifestation as something in the phenomenon, as a phenomena in the world, in the spatial space and time, right? Spatial temporal world exist in the spatial temporal world. And this is and this because things concept from concept to phenomena that exist in the phenomena that exist in space and time. This is how the problems of division and transmission of authority emerge, he argues, right? So the support of the state is at the same time support of the political authority through which it is maintained and exercised. And it is in and by this support that authority is real or active. So therefore, in other words, the support of the state is at the same time the support of a political authority through which it's maintained, continued, and exercised. And it is in and by this support that the authority he's talking about is active, is real. This real political authority is either autonomous or dependent. Okay, autonomous means self. It's by itself, or it is something dependent on something else. It is the actor. It's autonomous means it's on by it's on its own. It is there. It is not relying on something else. It is a thing that is caused a thing, or it is dependent something. In the first case, it is the individual or collective authority of the head of state. In the second case, it is the authority of an individual or collective civil servant, functionary, who exerts authority as a function of that of the leader. So therefore the difference between the head of state, the head of the sovereign in that sense, right? The sovereign, who is sovereign, the head of state or the head of the political sovereign, who is the ultimate sovereign, and then the functionary, the person who acts as the functionary, civil servant. But if the lifespan of the authority of the state is, in principle, limited, that of the support is necessary finite. So the support is, if the lifespan of the authority of the state is infinite, that of its support is finite. Authority must therefore be transmitted from one support to another. So again, what is support? Support is the actual things that are in the world, the things that are doing the exercising the authority or executing the authority in the world. So there has to be this It's not the authority is at the concept, and the one support is that which is exercising that activity, right? That is carrying out that activity, as I understand it, in the sense. Um, and this is and therefore it needs to be what transmitted from one support to another. This is the problem, strictly speaking, of the transmission of authority, which is uh, 2A, right? 2A. This is the 2A issue. There is also, however, the problem related to the transmission of authority of the leader to the civil servant. This transmission determines the nature of authority, which depends on the latter and on the relation with the anonymous authority to be. So therefore, this is the second type of authority. The first one, transmission from one from one transmitted from one support to another one. Right. This problem is transmission of political authority. But here's another transmission of political authority that is from the leader to this functionary. Right. The leader to the civil servant, from the sovereign to the civil servant. This transmission determines the nature of political authority, which depends on the latter in its relations with the anonymous authority. The authority of the state is one, since the state is one. By contrast, the support can be either individual or collective. So the authority of the state is one, okay, but the support can be either the agent exercising or how that state is manifesting itself can be either an individual or a collective. Okay, in other words, this is the idea of the city. There, either it's the leader or the sovereign or the king or that, or again. This is manifests itself as the citizen agent, right? The citizen agent, we can argue here, right? Or the execution of or this functionary, right? Hence the leader and the function. And therefore, this idea that, hence the problem of distribution of authority between the constituent elements of the support, as well as the question of knowing whether the latter should be multitude, collective, or not. This is 1B, okay, this idea of 1B. Uh, but in the authority of this, but if the authority of the state is always one, it is not necessarily simple. In other words, this question is not the question. The authority between the constituent element of support, as well as the question being that there should be a multiple or not. That's a practical. This is not a simple question. He says it would um, it would only be so when it belonged to one pure type authority, and if so, and so if the authority of the state combines several pure types, or even all four, it is possible to ask whether all these constituent elements must have one and the same support, or whether it is better to realize the elements separately, perhaps by grouping some of them. So, therefore, this is the question of how the division of this authority is going to work. How are you going to? How is the supports are going to be the agent executing or carrying out that aspect of authority. So if you have if the ultimate source of authority here is, let's say, all four types, maybe it's better not to have one source, one support carrying out all four, but rather divide it up into functions. This is separation of powers, right? This is kind of like this is strictly speaking. This is strictly speaking the problem of the division of authority, of the separation of powers. It is with that question that we should start. So therefore, the question of division of authority. I'm going to stop here, and we'll go through this. I think we'll go through one. And one's a big pain in the ass in that sense. So I'll stop here before doing one, which is part of A. The first section, the big number of numeral ones, one, and then 1A and 1B. So let's go look at this question of here. So stop here. If you have any comments, any questions, please put them below. And if I see them, when I see them, I will respond to them. And any kind of issues or questions about this text, please put it here. If you like it, share with the friends, pass it around, get it out, people out there. If you didn't like it, okay, say nah, but say why in the comments, okay? But if you've liked it and sharing it, if you've not subscribed, subscribe. Please subscribe. It would help grow the channel a little bit. If you're going to and encourage your friends to do this, share it. Now, if you want to follow me on social media and other links, you can follow the links below. Um, and also, if you want to help me, if you want to help me do what I do here, you can do so financially through Subscribe Star or Patreon. Of course, okay. People say, "Well, you don't do anything for us." Okay, if there's once there's something there, I'll do something. So you're doing it for free. Why should you give me money? I'm a living example of the danger of free riders, right? Because I'm doing this for free. It's like, okay. I hope somebody would think that this is useful. Maybe not. Only about 10 people watch this occasionally. I'm surprised. I thought more people would be interested in this. But maybe I'm boring. Okay. Um, Another way you can help is buy one of my books. If you have not bought, people probably know what you've bought already. You can buy them. They're listed below. Um, and if that's it, that's it. I hope you all have a good day. Um, Take care, and I'll see you next time when we continue. Again, remember this is usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. These postings of these posts, what I call the contemporary political theory thing, um, and then we'll do the bigger text. Montesquieu is still continuing. As right now, Montesquieu is done. We'll do it Monday. It's not done, but I'm still in the middle of Montesquieu, and we'll go with that on Monday, Wednesdays. Well, that's it. Okay, take care and have a good day. Bye bye.